Okay, we'll go ahead and call the April 11th council meeting to order. If everyone is able, would like to stand with me and say the Pledge of Allegiance. It's typically how we start. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, over the last several council meetings, we have started on our council meetings by having a moment of silence just in recognition of the things that's going over in Ukraine and some of the other things that are happening around us. And this evening, I'd like to just take a few seconds just to contemplate what's going on in the world and with a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor Pape.
Here.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Here.
Councilmember Hands.
Here.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Here.
Councilmember Leahy.
Here.
Councilmember Neal.
Here.
Councilmember Ryder.
Here.
Councilmember Silvers.
Here.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Here.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item on the agenda is public items. Members of the public are encouraged to use this time to make comments about matters that do not appear on the agenda. Comments about items on the regular agenda will be taken up as each item is considered. Please note that individuals making public comments will be limited to 5 minutes. We had a sign-up sheet that was outside that I don't know if some people didn't know maybe was there. So I have nobody currently on here to speak publicly or make a public comment, but that doesn't preclude you from doing so at this time. If it's on the agenda, though, I know there's several people that have some things that is listed, and if so, we'll take that up at that time. But if there's anything that's not on the agenda that you would like to speak to us about, now is your time. Is there anybody out there that wants to rush forward and to the podium? Okay, here we go. Representative Owsley. Okay. Please state your name, sir, and your address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jared Owsley, 6800 Farley, Merriam, Kansas. I didn't intend to be here today. It's been a while since I've been in this council boardroom. This is the first time I've seen this council makeup, period. So I just thought while I was in the audience, I'd stop and let you know that your friendly representative is on spring break from Topeka, so we're not doing any damage to your work at this time, and I'm always available if you need me. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate that. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Owsley before he gets too far away? Looks like you're off the hook, sir. Thank you. Okay, anyone else that would like to come forward at this time? Okay, seeing none, I'll close out the public items. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. All items listed under this heading are considered to be routine by the city council and may be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which case that item be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Are there any council members that would like to have anything removed from the consent agenda? Okay, I see no one wanting to have anything removed. I would entertain a motion. Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Okay, Councilmember Hands.
I move that the council approve consent agenda items 1 through 4.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Hands. We have a second by Councilmember Yodridge.
Mr. Mayor, second.
Okay, Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item on the agenda is the mayor's report. The first item listed on that is a proclamation that I'm going to read here in just a moment of 7 days of kindness. But there's my understanding that we might have a gentleman, at least Mr. Rice, in the audience that would like to come forward and say a few words first. Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. My name is
Lama Matt Rice.
There, no, no, hear you.
Hi, I'll take two. My name is Lama Matt Rice, spiritual director of the Rime Buddhist Center, also a proud director of the board of the 7 Days. And I live at 5924 Reeds Road in beautiful Mission, Kansas. Please don't hold that against me. And I just want to say a few things to you all. First of all, I just want to thank you all for your support of 7 Days. You are one of the 14 municipalities who are taking part in the 2022 7 Days events, and we really do appreciate your support of kindness in your community and the communities across the metropolitan. 7 Days, for those of you who are unaware of it, overcomes hate by promoting kindness and understanding through education and dialogue. And we teach kindness all year, but especially in April, which is the anniversary of the murders that prompted 7 Days in 2014. And I would like to invite you all to join us on April 13th for our kindness kickoff breakfast at the Church of the Resurrection in Leawood, Kansas at 7:30 a.m. bright and early. And then on April 24th at 4 p.m., we're going to have a kindness walk at the National World War I Museum and Memorial. And for those who would like to register for those events, please visit our website, www.give7days.org. And you can also follow us on social media, where your mayor, I believe I saw a post saying a few kind words. So again, thank you so much. And I have a sticker because you all are returning kindness supporters. So I have a sticker for your plaque for 2022, and then also some stickers of the buttons. So I'm not sure who I would give these to.
I give that to our Madam
Yep,
Clerk over
but
there.
thank you again.
Thank you. Do you recall one of the posters was actually developed by a citizen in Merriam, is that correct?
I believe so. I'm unfortunately, I don't know all the people that are involved with the art and stuff like that. I do
Yeah,
apologize.
That's fine. I've unfortunately forgotten her name. I was hoping that you'd remembered.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so we actually have one of our own citizens that has made a big portion of their, part of that actually occurring. I have this great proclamation that we'd like to, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the other things that's going on, but I'll just read the proclamation now. Whereas 7 Days Makes a Ripple, Change the World is an annual series of events demonstrating how hatred, bigotry, and ignorance can be overcome by kindness, respect, and understanding. And whereas 7 Days commemorates the lives of Dr. William Corporan, his grandson Reet Underwood, and Teresa Lamano, who were murdered on April 13th, 2014, by encouraging all people to discover commonalities and overcome evil acts with kindness. And whereas 7 Days 2022 is April 13th through April 24th, and includes a focus on kindness through activities with the daily themes of love, discover, you, others, connect, go, and onward. And whereas Merriam is committed to be a community where kindness is key and understanding is paramount, and stands in strong partnership to support this worthy outreach effort by conducting 7 days of kindness activities. Now therefore, I, Bob Pape, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of Merriam, Kansas, do hereby proclaim April 13th through April 24th, 2022 as 7 Days of Kindness in the city of Merriam, and encourage all in the Merriam, including residents, businesses, organizations, and visitors, to come together during the 7 days to act more kindly and be more understanding of differences, thereby making the world a better place, one ripple at a time. Proclaimed this 11th day of April, 2022, signed by me, Bob Pape, Mayor. Okay. And I'll get that back to you in a little bit. We also have, each of these days, the city of Merriam is undergoing an act of kindness, and if you'd like to see what those acts are and be involved, go to our website. It's posted there, and you can be involved as well as everybody else during this next 7 days. And it's all listed here, but I won't read that at this time. Okay, was there anybody else that needed to speak to that before we move on to the next item? Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming, Mr. Rice, and sharing that. Looks like the next item on our mayor's report is the promotion of Captain Chris Brokaw. Who would be handling that, Mr. Engel? Or, of course, the chief. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. One of the traditions we have is when we make a promotion of one of our officers to a supervisory level, we like to bring them before council, introduce them, do an official, what we call pinning ceremony. In this case, Captain Brokaw is going to be promoted to Major. Major is an important rank in our agency. That puts him as the second in command of the police department, so he will be filling in for me when I'm unavailable to run the police department. He is going to be in charge of the patrol division, which is the largest division in the police department, and look forward to working with him and bringing him on up to speed as to what it is I do. I can't tell him everything because then the cat will be out of the bag and people will figure it out and stuff like that. So Chris? Usually it's tradition, what we do is we invite, Captain Brokaw will invite a member of his family up to do the actual pinning ceremony. I believe it's going to be his dad.
Dad and stepmom.
Stepdad?
They wanted to each have one, so.
Okay.
We're gonna do one on each side.
You, all right, that's good.
I don't have my glasses. Yeah.
Well, hopefully I can get this.
If you draw a little blood, it's okay.
Did you, whoops,
That's all right. I've lost about
Sorry.
100 of those.
I'm sorry. Okay, I got one. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Good job.
All right,
Congratulations,
Thanks,
Chris. Look forward to
Appreciate it.
working with you.
thank you.
Your parents were much more kinder. When I got promoted, they just jabbed that right into my chest. It was not a pretty sight. Okay. All right. Congratulations. Oh, well, I guess I probably should have came back, should I? The next item on the agenda is the Employee Service Awards for this quarter. I'll turn that over to Mr. Engel.
We used to recognize all of our employees at once that were hitting a benchmark anniversary, whether that was 5, 10, 15, some factor of 5. A couple years ago, we went and started splitting those up so we could actually celebrate these employees every quarter as these come due. So we have 2 awards tonight for certificates of service. Our first one from our police department is Bo Susi with 5 years. If I could have him come up.
Congratulations. Thank you. Oh, you're not going to stay in here with us? How about you? You want to come up? No? Okay. Thank you. Congratulations, and thank you for your hard work.
And Mark Livingston is our second employee. He's with our court department. He is not here this evening, but he is also celebrating 5 years of service, dedicated service with the city. So we'll give him a
Our employees make the city, so we appreciate everyone. Okay, well, I have one more item on several things that have occurred, and thank you, gentlemen, and thank you for your service, all your officers out there. But I'll turn over to Councilmember Hands. I think he has a few items that she'd like to talk about, so.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to report that several of us attended the Climate Action KC Summit on Saturday. That was Councilmembers Yardrich, Ryder, Shavetta, me, and staff person Jennifer Jones-Lacey. This was the second summit that I had attended. It's the second summit that they'd had. We had a little blip with, COVID in between all of those things. And my biggest takeaway from the day was how much our conversation had changed since 3 years ago. And that was that we talked a lot more about the weather, that we go for a long time and have no rain, and then we have a deluge. And that our infrastructure was actually built to handle 1950s weather, not 2000, not our 2022 weather. So I can't say there were tons of solutions to that issue, but that was talked about quite a bit. And I don't know if any of the others have something that they would want to share.
Anyone? No? Okay.
They learned a lot, I can
Well,
guarantee.
thank you for attending that and representing the city.
The Marching Cobras were very exciting.
Yes,
There you
they
go. Well,
were.
good. I've
That's
seen
how we
them.
closed out. And then the second item is I just want to remind all the council people that the Overland Park Fire Department Awards Dinner is coming up. And I had the honor of going to that last year, and it is really, really good. Because we're doing our own RSVPs, I'm only aware that I am going and Councilmember Yodrich is going. She's even bringing her husband. So I just want to encourage anybody else to come along. I've been known to drive a carpool if anyone's interested.
Again, it's a great event, and my apologies, Chief, that I'm going to be out of town that day, so I won't be there but I have been to them in the past, and it's a great event, so I hope everyone takes advantage of that and goes and sees all the great things that the fire department in Overland Park has been doing over the last year and the awards that they're going to receive. Anything else, Ms. Hans?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Okay, it looks like we're moving on the agenda and down to council items. The first one is award construction contract to Quinn Concrete Construction LLC. Looks like Director Dyer is going to come to the podium. All right.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Brian Dyer, Community Development Director. As you recall, last year during your budget session, you allocated $50,000 towards a grant program to help folks who are low to moderate income replace or repair their driveway. We started, after you all approved that, we started taking applications towards the third and fourth quarter last year. Identified a number of driveways that could potentially be helped through this program. We ultimately came down to 5 driveways that fit the requirements for the program. And we put those out to bid, not expecting, well, not knowing what to expect in this volatile time of prices of both labor as well as materials. And we were pleasantly surprised that we got 3 bids back, and we had one, the lowest bid was from Quinn Concrete at $47,360, which is enough to do for all 5 of the driveways. So again, we were pleasantly surprised with that, and staff did check references. They have this, Quinn Concrete has done work in Merriam before, and again, be happy to answer any questions that you all may have. Just real quick, if you all approve this evening, what's going to happen next is David Easley, Neighborhood Services Manager, will coordinate with the contractor as well as the residents to start scheduling when those drivers will be get worked on. So again, David Easley is going to be the intermediary between the two and keep the residents well informed of what's going on. So again, be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from the council for Director Dyer? Ms. Ryder, go ahead.
Have we checked with the residents who've had work done with them before on quality and such?
They, Quinn Concrete gave us a list of references. I don't know if they were Merriam or not. David made phone calls and said all the phone calls that all the folks he talked to were very pleased with the work they had done.
Okay. Any other questions, Director Dyer? Okay. Hearing no other questions, I would entertain a motion for approval or whatever the motion might be. Okay. Councilmember Yodrich, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the council award a construction contract to Quinn Concrete Construction LLC for 5 residential driveways for the 2022 City of Merriam Residential Driveway Grant Program.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Oh, go ahead, Councilmember Neal.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers,
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge,
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, moving on. It looks like our next item on the agenda is a consider approval of a resolution condemning conversion therapy for minors. And it looks like we have our Assistant City Administrator, Jennifer Jones-Lacey.
Hello, thank you. I'm actually just here to answer any questions that you have. The resolution is attached, and this is in response to a request from council initially requesting an ordinance. And after advice from our attorney, we presented you with a resolution. So that is what you have before you right now, and I'm just here to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Before we move on with that or ask questions, I think there might be some individuals in the audience that wanted to speak on this item. Is there anyone who wants to come forward? Yes, please come forward. And please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't like microphones. My name is Amy Butcher Long. I live at 2904 West 72nd Street in Prairie Village, Kansas. I do work, or I do business, and I'm a big fan of Merriam, so thank you for letting me speak. I read the resolution, and from my vantage point, there is something glaringly missing. If you read the first part, the language says that essentially the city of Merriam is against conversion therapy for gender identity and sexual orientation. Or I should say, it doesn't say that Merriam is against that, but it lists all of the dangers of conversion therapy for gay, lesbian, bisexual folks, and then also folks who have gender identity concerns. Those are two different groups. And I say this as a parent of a couple of kids, one who identifies as gay and the other one who identifies as trans. So all this mention about the dangers can lead to suicide, blah, 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 but then at the very bottom, when you get to the resolution, there's no mention of gender identity. So for me, as a reader with a child who identifies as trans, it sounds like the city of Merriam opposes conversion therapy for gay, lesbian, bisexual youth, but you're okay with that for young people who have questions about their gender identity. And I don't think that's what you meant to say, but that is how I read it. So I would suggest that that language be changed. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Okay. Please come forward, ma'am. Okay. And again, state your name and address for the record.
Will do. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Rose Geringer, and I have lived at 9931 West 56th Street for the last 22 years, where my husband and I have raised 5 children, and we're now grandparents of 8. Thanks for the opportunity to address an item on the agenda this evening, the conversion therapy ban for minors. When I was in school, grooming was a fancy name for washing my face, combing my hair, brushing my teeth. But in our current culture, grooming takes on a sinister meaning, reminiscent of Jeffrey Epstein and weekly headlines of similar abuses. We are in a pandemic of pedophilia, where grooming has replaced the protection of our innocent children. So the city wants to ban certain conversations in therapy sessions. I'm curious if the city of Merriam interferes in other therapies that might be going on in our city. There are many licensed and lay counselors giving advice on a myriad of topics every day. To interject the city in conversations about youth sexuality seems a little overreaching. There are also concerns about freedom of speech, and when these conversations take place in the context of a religious community, there are also constitutional concerns. Perhaps the council is just wanting to show support to families whose young students have been exposed to adult sexuality through molestation or graphic media. And if this is the case, no micromanaging of counseling conversations is warranted. Simply enforce the laws against child predators and refer these families to holistic counselors who can help repair the damage. Troubled and confused kids should have access to conversations that clarify, not further confuse. So for every so-called expert condemning conversion therapy, there are others who applaud it, both therapists and their clients. Civic leaders like yourselves should not allow Big Pharma to dictate policies that line the pockets of those selling puberty blockers and mutilating surgeries. Lastly, if this therapy is so egregious, why would you only ban it for minors? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir. You may approach the podium. Please give your name and your address.
Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Reverend Mark Willis. I'm the senior pastor for Merriam Christian Church, a congregation in good standing with the Christian Church Disciples of Christ, the oldest church in the city of Merriam. On behalf of Christians like myself, on behalf of churches like the one I am honored to serve, and on behalf of this community that I have been blessed to be a part of for this past decade, I come before you today to say, please pass this resolution. Stand up against this barbaric, unchristian atrocity known as conversion therapy. Speak up for some of the most vulnerable among us. Stand up for those who may feel they have no voice, no power in this moment. Reach out to the marginalized in our community, the ostracized, the oppressed. Be kind and gracious. Be loving and compassionate. Be understanding and gentle. I appreciate the limitations that you face. The legalities of banning something as vile and ugly as conversion therapy. The First Amendment connotations of such a ban are far-reaching. But still, choose to stand up and voice your opposition. Choose to speak out against this horrible tactic. Choose to make your position known. There are many of us in this community, in these churches, who still believe that love and grace should be our calling card. We see you, and we want this resolution passed. Undoubtedly, in this discussion, some of my religious brethren will be of a different opinion in this matter. They will come with verbal pitchforks and torches, seeking to shame and shove you with weaponized faith and hurtful theology, much as they wish to do with this so-called therapy. I apologize for them. They are afraid. The world is changing at an awesome pace, and we are struggling to keep up, to understand, to fathom these changes. For some, that is frightening, despite God telling us again and again to not fear. Many still do. And that fear makes them irrational, unhinged, and misguided. In desperation, they hope to harass and harangue those that are different from them into thinking like they do, believing like they do, feeling like they do. Please do not hate them for this misguided venom and vitriol. When they come, whether it be tonight or in the grocery store or at your place of work, to spout their misplaced fears and acidic beliefs, please do not hate them. I profess as a believer in Jesus Christ that God loves all of God's children. God's straight children, God's gay children, God's transgendered children, and even God's misguided children. Do not hate these misguided children. Hear them, forgive them, pray for them, for they do not know what they do. In closing, I offer these holy words not as a weapon, but as a reassurance of your actions today. In 1 John 4, the Bible tells us that God is love, and that those who abide in love abide in God, and God abides in them. Those who say, I love God, and hate their brothers and sisters are liars. For those who do not love a brother or sister who they have seen cannot love God who they have not seen. The commandment we have from God is this: those who love God must love their brothers and sisters also. Do good today. Trust me when I say, good people will notice. God bless you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Pastor. Or is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to this issue? Come forward, sir. Please state your name and address.
Good evening. Brian Shapley, 8904 West 49th Terrace, here in Merriam. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I will admit I didn't prepare much and was really kind of prepared more to address disinformation than provide new information, which I'd be more than happy to at any time I know. But I would like to say that hard act to follow. There has been quite a bit of disinformation about this topic, even in a very short period of time. And I would like to start with saying that there is no constitutionality issue with a full ban on conversion therapy on minors within the city limits. There was indeed a conversion therapy ban that was struck down by the United States Supreme Court, specifically because that ban included a clause of language that needed to be used by counselors. And that language, those specific words, went against their religious views. Nothing in anything that has been presented to you all, to this council, includes language. It is about procedure. It is about what a counselor does and doesn't do, not about what they say or don't say, or what they believe or don't believe. There have also been carve-outs for specific religious practices done by pastors or priests or the clergy of a church that would not be affected in any way by either this resolution or a full-out ban. So most of the people who are, I believe, truly think this would be a negative thing are basing all of those beliefs on disinformation as opposed to correct information. So I have provided you all with a little bit of legal information about the SCOTUS decision that people are worried might be concerned with this. I can provide more if needed. I can provide paper copies if needed. But I would like to end my short time with you asking you to table this. Give yourselves time to read information other than what was given you at the beginning. Give yourself time to look at that information, to think it over, and I would urge you to abandon the idea of a resolution and pass a full-on ban on conversion therapy within the city limits of Merriam. It is torture according to almost every civilized organization on our planet. It is considered torture by most states in this country. Please be the leader you always have been, that we always have been in Merriam, and protect the most vulnerable citizens we have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Shelby. We also have a letter that's been sent through the House of Hope, basically affirming, and I think all the city council received that letter, just agreeing with the resolution as proposed, that they support that. Okay, well, I think we've heard from everyone from the audience. Oh, was there any, excuse me, yes. Come forward, sir, yes. Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you and good evening. Billy Crone, 6633 Wed Street. I will note the resolution before you tonight does not ban anything. Tonight's resolution only makes a statement, and that was not an accident. Though a ban was the original intent, our legal counsel convinced you not to in private session. And I would like to know specifically why, for the record, and what was discussed in that private executive session. All of you at one point have praised transparency. I think that's a good thing, and I think this is an issue that deserves a lot of transparency. Now is your opportunity to let that sun shine and help the public understand exactly what went on in that meeting, just so we can all be on the same page. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll turn that over to legal counsel if they'd like to comment on that, what they can comment on.
So the advice that was rendered in executive session is attorney-client privileged. I can't waive that privilege for you. Only you can waive that privilege. And you, being the body as a whole, you're the only ones that can waive that privilege. We talked about a lot of things, including potential liability, in that executive session. Ms. Yodrich just sent me maybe 10 minutes ago this letter from the Human Rights Campaign. I've looked at that. I can comment on that relative to my legal opinion, but that would also be the rendering of legal advice, which is appropriate to provide under the confidentiality of the attorney-client privilege, again, which I cannot waive. Only you as the governing body can waive.
Okay, thank you. I'm not necessarily interested in waiving that myself. Is there anyone on the council that wants to move that forward? But I mean, I think there's a reason we have that.
I have a question.
Okay.
So I'm not interested in waiving that at this time.
Okay.
But I am interested in hearing his expertise on it. So my ultimate question is, should we pass a resolution, does that preclude us from passing an ordinance should legal advice shift on the topic based on additional information?
Okay.
Sorry. No, you could come back and pass an ordinance. They're not preclusive of one another.
Okay, thank you. Are any other questions? Mr. Neal.
In understanding process here, you're indicating that to render an opinion on the information that the city attorney just received to the council, would that require going into executive session to do that?
So I have a fully formed legal opinion. After reading it, I know exactly where that, it's an opinion from, someone who appears to have some legal training. But relative in time and relative to the opinions expressed in that, I know that the only court of law that has ruled on that issue since the 2018 Supreme Court decision expressly rejected the rationale in that opinion. And so the only court that has ruled on the applicability of that Supreme Court case to conversion therapy, and that was in November of 2020, said that Supreme Court case was squarely applicable to conversion therapy. There are no cases that are on the books that have not been, at least according to Westlaw, deemed overruled, that have found that conversion therapy prohibitions do not violate the First Amendment.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for legal counsel? Okay, no other questions, and, I'm
I
sorry.
do want to
Yes.
circle back to the one comment about gender identity. I saw you reading, were you reviewing the language? Do we feel like that is covered as well?
Yeah, and Jennifer, I didn't know if you wanted to comment whether that was an oversight, because you took the first shot at that. I honestly didn't notice the difference in the language.
Sure, yeah, and we can add that. If the council wishes to add that component, it's very easy to do, so we can just include it as part of this resolution. And just for reference, this information was gathered from basically other sources that I found that had passed previous resolutions. But yes, if you wanted to add gender identity to that first section, very simple. We can do that through this process. We could do it tonight.
Is that the will of the council? Just I think there were head nods.
Can we also strike youth from sections 1 and 2 to cover all individuals, regardless of age?
You all are the deciders.
Yeah, it's like looking forward.
Are there ramifications about that I'm just not aware of?
Most of the language for prior ordinances and resolutions have really targeted youth. There is nothing to say, since this is not a ban, it is simply a statement of opposition and condemnation, that you can't expand that to adults if you wish to do so.
Okay.
I
Mr.
would
Cowdell, okay.
personally would struggle with that. Not that I think it's a good idea, but that if a consenting adult goes to seek it, who are we to say they shouldn't get it? And I'm totally on board that a minor doesn't have that right or ability to consent. So I kind of like leaving youth in.
Mr. Neal, go ahead.
Yeah, I was basically going to say the same thing, but pointing out that the difference, obviously, with minors, they are subject to the will of their guardians, parents, and but an adult obviously has the ability to make their own decision whether or not to attend some therapy that might fit this category. So
I'd counter that not all adults have that authority.
Okay, Ms. Ryder.
To expand on what Jacob was saying, disabled people might not be consenting or have that ability to consent. So I think I personally like Jacob's idea of striking youth, although I do see what you guys are saying. But I also think that there are not all adults who have the proper ability to consent.
I'm almost to the point, I think we'll probably need a raise of hands of who wants to strike youth from the, and leave it as all. Because I'm.
Point of
Mr.
order
Mr.
or
Neal, go
question. If we're going to change this, would we need to just make a motion to change it?
I would actually like to review the new language.
Yeah, and actually, I'm kind of working it up here, and, exclude, not mentioning the youth component.
Is there, for lack of a better term, a needle that we can thread for non-consenting, for therapy on non-consenting individuals? Would that make you both happy?
Okay.
Chris?
Are you catching all this? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What is
I'm gonna
the
give it a
intent of the
go.
council as far as, do we know what do you want to, it's kind of lengthy, so I'm not sure. Do we know what will be the new one? Do you
Want
want
me to give
do you
it a
want to table
shot?
this, or do you want to go forward this evening?
If possible, I'd like to just table it, regroup, because there's, specific language in there that's starting to get a little sticky when we're trying to thread needles and stuff. Come back next meeting then and just approve it. So I make a motion. I move that we, let me pull this up here. I move that we table the resolution condemning conversion therapy of minors until the next council meeting.
Okay. We have a motion to table. We have a second? Ms.
I'll
Sands?
second that.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Leahy.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
Aye.
Councilmember Ryder.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodridge.
Aye.
Councilmember Shavetta.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, well, we will, I think, if you have, you'll work up something and get it to us before the next meeting, I assume, on what we think the language should be. Thank you. All right. Moving on to staff items is the next item on our agenda, the April CIP update. There you go, Director McDonald. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
You got it? Okay.
No, I don't have it.
Oh.
I don't know the password.
There you go.
Thank you. Okay, good evening. I have your April CIP update. This evening, I will begin with the West Frontage Road project, which is the West Frontage Road from 75th Street to Turkey Creek Drive, which is the roundabout. On March 15th, Miles Excavation was awarded the contract, and currently the anticipated start date for that project is May 9th. Once they start, they have 180 days to complete that project for substantial completion. Next, I have the 55th Street Improvement Project from Merriam Drive to West City Limits. Staff is currently working with BHC Engineering on the design for that project. So far, we have received 11 of the 35 temporary construction easements, and just recently we were notified by Kansas Gas that they are replacing a gas main on 55th Street from Farley to Knox and several service lines during that project. Phoenix Concrete has been awarded the contract for the mill and overlay program. Notice to proceed is April 18th. The streets included in that mill and overlay program are Hawker Drive, Farley Street from 55th Street to 57th Street, West 57th Street, Wed Street, Wed Place, and 66 Terrace, which is Timber Ridge Villas, and the 75 days to complete that project. And then the final one I have is the BHC's working on the Merriam Drive Street Improvement Project from Johnson Drive to 55th Street. We are continually working with Water One on the water main replacement to have that done during the project. We have a public meeting scheduled for April 21st from 6 to 7:30 at the Merriam Community Center. Staff in BHC will be there to show the preliminary plans for everyone that attends. So I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay, Ms. Shadrich, go ahead.
To clarify, which chunk of Merriam Drive is that?
As Merriam Drive from Johnson Drive to 55th.
So the one we just had the open
Yes.
house for last time. So we have another so we have a first public meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
With the engineers that's engineering the project.
Okay,
Yes.
got it. I'll add that to my April calendar.
Yeah, exactly.
Really quick, so that will be the final meeting we'll see the final design.
It won't be final. It's preliminary because we have one more meeting for that portion for the PSP for the finalization of that. But this is just the engineers taking those original designs to show what's supposed to take place.
Got it, thank you.
And it is called the Downtown Improvements Meeting, I believe.
Yes.
Now I forgot. Oh, you said about the gas lines being replaced?
Yes.
Water people talking to you too?
Not on 55th Street. They have looked at the age of that and how many instances they've had of breaks on there, and 55th Street has very minimal, so it's not need. They don't deem it necessary to replace this time.
Okie dokie.
Any other questions for Director McDonald? Okay,
Thank you.
I see no other questions. Thank you, sir. Okay. Mr. Engel, do you have anything else from staff?
I do. I have a couple items. The bike plan is complete, and it's now available online. As a reminder, we had a citizen group of users to help shepherd that process through with a consultant. And the plan for the bike plan is to use it like we would a streetlight or sidewalk plan when we're going to do streets. We will reference that map for where we should be putting in bike lanes, sharrows, whatever the recommendation is of the bike plan. But that is now complete. Drake has resubmitted a TIF application for the Kmart site. We're still reviewing it, but it is residential, 2 residential towers with some retail/restaurant. We will likely be bringing forward at the next council meeting some property to remove from the TIF to help facilitate that process forward, as well as having a work session on the term sheet that becomes the RDA. So it'll be a busy night that night. We have several PSP meetings, as Public Works Director McDonald referenced. We've got the North Merriam Drive open house tomorrow evening at the community center. And then the following evening, Wednesday night, we'll have the last downtown Merriam Drive advisory board meeting in the Merriam Community Center. So that's this week. And then we have the State of the Cities luncheon on Thursday, the 28th. We had several folks, that's been moved because of weather several times, so we've had several fits and spurts of RSVPs. So please reach out to Jennifer or myself to reconfirm your status as an attendee at that, so we can make sure that we've got all the right folks at the table. That is all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Engel? Okay, I see no questions. All right. I assume we have no executive session this evening? No, sir. Okay. Well, that kind of takes us down to pretty much the end of our council meeting. I'd entertain a motion. Okay, Ms. Hands.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to adjourn, please.
You'd like to adjourn? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'd second that.
And we have a second from Ms. Shadridge. Okay. Call for the adjournment, Madam Clerk.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.